And we are live on Cultureveille here at the Congress Center in Barcelona. And I'm very happy to welcome Mercè Tell. Mercè Tell, you are a venture capitalist. You are a managing partner at Nekko Capital.
Yeah, I would define myself as also an entrepreneur because actually I'm an entrepreneur in the venture capital world. So just to give an idea on what it means, I've launched my venture capital managing company. Now I'm trying to convince investors who believe in us and who deploy their assets, and then we are able to invest in startups afterwards. Okay. So we're right now in the process, so quite excited on that. That's also tough, raising funds to be able to invest in startups afterwards. And then we have, during 5 years, a process of investing in a portfolio of companies, and after that, managing them, being a partner with them, and helping them scaling, and afterwards selling the stake to someone who is going to be willing to invest in the company.
So, Mercè, thank you for being with us. And you were just in a panel that finished a few minutes ago. And the topic you discussed in that panel is that time I should have invested in a creative startup. So just to come back on what you were just saying, when you're a venture capitalist, you are trying to find money to fund startups so that they can develop their activities, right?
Right. Actually, we create and sell a product. A product itself is a fund. So we define an investment thesis. We define which sectors we want to invest. It sometimes depends on the experience that we have as a partner, where we can add value to the companies, and then also try to invest and find corporations that are willing to invest in the same fields. So that's mainly, that takes time. It's hard to raise funds for a startup. It's also hard for a VC to raise funds for ourselves to be able to deploy it afterwards.
So it's really hard to figure out which startups you should invest into and which ones you should maybe just let go. I guess you've made mistakes. I guess you have regrets as well. So what was that one time you should have invested in a startup and you just didn't do it and you still regret it today?
Well, I would say, like, for instance, right now we invest in B2B companies. So I see a lot of deal flow that comes to the office, great projects with great teams, but actually mainly working on marketplaces or anything related to consumer. That's not our field. It's where we would love to invest in those companies, but sometimes it's you've sold a product and a type of fund, and you are not able to invest in them. So I would regret, in some cases, there are great companies that I've seen passing by the office and couldn't invest because our fund has different strategy. So that's one point. Sometimes also you have
so that means you have promised your customers, or the people who put money in the fund, you have convinced them to invest in B2B companies, and if you try to sell them something else, they will say, I'm sorry, that's not what I agreed to, right?
So we have to stick to our investment thesis. In our case, it's mainly B2B companies. So that means anyone that is digital transformation scope, but in some specific verticals. So we have to stick to that. Personally, sometimes I have even invested in some of the companies, just to say, it's an amazing product and I would love to. I can do as a VC, but I can do it on my personal investment.
So regarding creative companies, would you say they are especially difficult to invest into?
Well, they have different synergies. The creative space is really wide. So there are companies developing really deep tech, which involves huge amounts of money to bring their product or their prototype to the market. That's the type of companies that really are difficult for us to invest. In some cases, they have a specific creative entrepreneur. And for us, sometimes it lacks on the business side, which is also important. So we invest in companies because we want to have great returns at the end to be able to return it to our investors. In some of the creative industries, we don't see balanced teams, so that they combine both the approach to the market and also the specific knowledge of their industry.
So you were talking right now about the team. You also were talking about return on investment. Mm-hmm. What are the criteria you typically look into before you invest in a company?
First, as I said, it's mainly does it fit in our funds? So we normally manage different funds. So you see that it's actually something that could fit in our criteria. That's the main point. But actually the main issue when valuing any company is the team are going to be able to execute, because normally they can be great products, but actually it's a question of execution and being able to scale up that company. So for us, we are looking for companies that are able to multiply and have extremely good growth. That's mainly on how the team is able to find a good business model and be able to scale and expand it to other countries. So we look for global approach, also trying to solve really a specific market need, because sometimes you see people more in the creative industries who have an amazing idea, but actually doesn't solve a concrete market need, or at least not a huge market need, because sometimes it's a niche, something that is applying to a niche of the market. So that's good. That can be really successful, but it's not investable from our side.
So let's say I'm an entrepreneur, I have a startup, and you need to give me some piece of advice because I want to attract some funding. What type of advice would you give me?
I would say that actually it's always said that having an investor on board means that he has to fall in love with your project, and you have to be able to transmit this passion and this vision on how you're going to be from this initial product that you want to launch, being able to conquer the market, and a huge market. So that's mainly I would say that you have to believe in your project. There's going to be up and downs. You have to be really consistent, and also resilience. It's quite important for an entrepreneur. So that's what we look for when we value the teams. So we put them in extreme conditions sometimes on our due diligence. So kind of checking if they're going to be able to suffer this type of up and downs when they evolve with the project.
So it has a lot to do with personality.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So you're really looking into people before you make the money choice.
Yeah, we also look to the market, of course. We conduct our due diligence, looking for a market opportunity, a size of the market, also valuing if there are other competitors, if they are able to create market barriers for that, and even if there's IP behind that. So there's several things that we look at, but at the end, if we don't believe in the team, we're going to be, nothing's going to come later on.
So your advice is choose the other members of your team right, believe in yourself, and go?
Sure. It's difficult to be a solo entrepreneur, so that's something more in the creative industries I was saying before. Just make sure that the team has the combined skills and it's able to conquer the market. So, and then also while choosing the investor, it's the same thing. I would extremely recommend to all entrepreneurs that check previous experience of the business they are involving, or the business angels that they are involving in their project, because it makes a lot of sense. You're going to be someone that is going to be on your board. It's going to be taking a stake in the company. So just make sure also that it's going to be bringing value to the company, because sometimes there's noise also while having several investors on board.
So it's really a matter of fit between two people, the entrepreneur on one side and the founding partner on the other side.
Sure.
There needs to be a good fit, and so your advice wouldn't be just send emails everywhere, but more, do your own due diligence and try to find the right VCs? Exact.
So timing for the VC, if they have funds, if they're investing in this field, on the one that you are approaching. And also then sometimes it's quite good if you can get referrals to the VC instead of knocking a door with in a cold way. So because we believe, as saying, it's kind of a personal decision. So if someone can give a good introduction to the VC, that helps a lot, even though we value all the projects that we see and also the ones that we see on pitching sessions. Well,
these are very sound pieces of advice. Thank you very much, Mercè, for answering those questions. I hope the people who are watching this will keep all these good advices in mind. And thanks a lot. And
thanks for inviting for the interview. Thanks.
Yeah, good visit to the Sonar Festival.
Enjoy the Sonar. Bye.